Hello again, everybody, and welcome to another Zoom edition of ATI. Dan with Brian and Matt. This is our NFL preview edition. We're going to dive into the National Football League about to kick off tonight as we tape this show. They're going to kick off in a couple hours. And then we'll end the show talking about the Celtics and the NBA playoffs. The Celtics and the Raptors will be playing a Game 7 tomorrow night. But let's start with the NFL. Let's start with the local team, the Patriots. They're playing the Dolphins on Sunday. It'll be the first time we see Cam Newton in a Patriots uniform. That'll be exciting. What are you guys looking forward to, and what are your sort of your thoughts as the Patriots kick off the post-Tom Brady era?
It's going to be entertaining, right? That's what we've all been waiting on. We've all talked up, oh, is it just Belichick that made the team, or is it Brady that made the team? Who made it? And I'm kind of excited, but obviously it's the Dolphins and Ryan Fitzpatrick, right? So we all remember the last time we played the Dolphins. They beat us here at Gillette in December, cost us a bye, and it tumbled from there. So if they lose, it's, well, maybe Brady was onto something, and if Brady couldn't beat the Dolphins, then how did anyone else expect to? But if they win, it's like, well, the last time the Dolphins played the Patriots, Tom Brady couldn't beat them, but Cam Newton could, so Cam Newton's better than Tom Brady. I think they should win. It's still Miami. That shouldn't be an issue, but I'm interested to see the reaction after the game.
I think Tom would have had a better chance if he went to, what was it? People were talking today. He couldn't have gone to the Bears or the Chargers. I guess he was going to go to San Francisco, but the GM or the coach, they won't commit, who had cold feet at the end. I guess he was going to go to San Francisco, and Garoppolo was going to have to go somewhere for a first-round pick and some other stuff, but they couldn't find a team willing to bite. He shouldn't have gone to Chicago. I think he won. I mean, their defense is a hell of a lot better than Tampa's is. But, he's in Tampa now, maybe because the weather's good. What the guy say, the little guy on a 98.5 say he likes a semi-retirement. You're the king of Southwest Florida. I mean, which is like a big deal for about a minute and a half, ask Warren Sapp. But, I think they'll do okay, and then as far as the Patriots go, it's like, I don't know. I mean, okay, they're 10-6. Wait till the playoffs. Can they get by Kansas City? Can they get by the Ravens at the end? That's basically the season.
Do we really think it's a given that they'll get to like double-digit wins? Just because
I don't think they're. I think they're better than the Bills. They're better than Miami. So I mean, I think that you're at least 500.
Right. You would think that they still should at least be able to win like 8 or 9 games. I'm just wondering if they're still going to be like a 10-11 win team this year in the first post Brady year on offense, new quarterback, a lot of new players, and then on defense they've lost a lot of guys who aren't playing because of COVID. So I'm wondering if the defense is going to be interesting to watch, because I don't think they're going to be as good on defense this year.
Well, nobody's had any preseason games, and the teams like Belichick's team and well-coached teams, they're going to be like, the pitchers in spring training or the pitchers in April who are ahead of the hitters, if you know what I mean. So the teams that have a bunch of young guys who really haven't actually played real football in the NFL, they're kind of behind the 8 ball, at least for the first couple weeks. And I don't know how long that's going to be, but you're going to see a lot more freak injuries. I know I hate preseason football. You guys hate preseason football. Everybody hates preseason football, but there's a reason they actually do it, to try and get these guys in shape, because from the neck up, they're not the brightest bulbs. It's the neck down. That's why we do this show when they're in the NFL. But
also hard to just jump from practice right to a game, because that's such a leap.
Yeah, I mean, if I give Nolan Ryan his prime of baseball, if he hadn't done anything for 6 months, it might be 85, 90. But when you train and do whatever, you're going to be peak performance. No athlete, no matter who they are, they can just jump off the field and be 100%. But then there's so much more coaching involved too, where the really good coaches are going to kind of exploit some of these weaknesses. I think stamina is going to be a huge issue for a lot of these guys in the first couple of weeks, and you're going to see some huge blowouts late. Like a game will be close to like the halftime, and then when the team is in better shape, will just fall apart. Like your offensive line, you're holding up a wall for 60 minutes. You're not going to be able to do that.
And I'm really intrigued. So just talking about the Patriots, and they have to play the AFC West and NFC West, and those are probably two of the toughest divisions in all of football right now. So. And it's not like it's the easy games at all. You have to go to Seattle in week 2. You have to go to Kansas City in week 4 or 5. And obviously the fans aren't there, which makes those two venues so difficult. But this Patriots team is going to be tested early on. Like Brian said, are they going to be fitter than the other team, right? So when you look at the teams they play first off, you have Miami, Seattle, Vegas, Kansas City, Denver before their bye. Two of those quarterbacks are very mobile. Two of those quarterbacks are very young. You look at it and you're like, well, what are we going to do with that? And are you going to be able to take advantage with your coaching? Or are you going to be at a disadvantage because the other guys are playing backyard football and you got a bunch of scrubs on your defense, right? So I think the first 5 games are going to be interesting. I think they should be able to sneak by everyone except Kansas City because I do think Kansas City's the better team.
Right.
And then defensively, Dan, Brian, you were talking about some of the misses. You still have Stephon Gilmore. And when you look at the rest of the defense, I'm not too worried. You look at the rest of the defense, the Patriots have never had an elite pass rusher because they only care about quarterback pressures. They don't care about sack numbers. So the Patriots could go a whole season with 0 sacks, but they have a guy with 38 quarterback pressures, and apparently that's good to them. So they have guys that can do that. I think no matter who you miss, the Patriots defense will be fine.
Yeah, sacks are like dunks. I mean, they look good. You know, they're nice highlights, but I'd rather just keep the other team.
I love sacks.
Well, Dan, you're all about the sacks. We know that. You bring the sacks to the show.
Sacks.
So, quarterback pressure is great, except that what it doesn't say is that he still completed the pass for a 40-yard touchdown. He got pressure, but he still completed the pass for a 40-yard touchdown. That's why I never understood. If you get a sack, the guy's on the ground. If you get a quarterback pressure, it doesn't mean it.
It's gone away from a running league to a throwing league. I don't think anyone would argue with that. So with the quarterback pressures, I think are much more important because now you're forcing these guys who, you know, played on spread formations, these younger quarterbacks, to actually use their brain and make decisions. And as we've seen, that can, you know, depending on who the quarterback is, that's a great thing to do. But if the average quarterback will try and force the ball, I mean, even like an old, you know, fossil like Brett Favre, he forced the ball like crazy. But when you make these guys make split-second decisions, you're going to turn the ball over. Where if you run the ball, I mean, I don't know how many fumbles you would see, but, you know, when you see a guy force the ball into coverage, you have a much better chance of, you know, a reception, an interception, the ball going the other way.
Now, with the limiting of fans, I think some teams are not letting any fans in, and then some teams are allowing 25% capacity, whatever it is.
Yep.
That's going to make a big difference, especially home field advantage is not going to be as big as it would be in a normal year with you know, a packed stadium. What do you guys make of that? I think that's going to be interesting to watch, and that could be something to follow on the betting lines.
Where are they going to be? Do we know, Matt? Are they going to be so I'll give you an example. Like if you've been to a Patriots game, the 200 section, the 100 section?
So it depends on – so if it's a lot like what I've been hearing from other sports, they're blocking off the first 10 to 15 to 20 rows, so you're not that close to the field. And then it depends on how many people buy tickets, right? So if you get 25,000 individual tickets, it's a little harder than if you get groupings. So you might only end up with 24,000 because of the way they spread, right? So if us 3 buy a group of tickets, that obviously forces different spreading than if a family of 10 buys a group of tickets versus if me and my dad want to go type thing, right? So
I thought it was all season ticket holders anyway. So this was all, I mean, like me and you, the average person, you couldn't even buy a ticket.
So there is first come, first serve, but there are obviously a lot of people that don't want to go anywhere right now. So
okay, yep.
But I think it could make a big difference. I'll admit, watching college football this past weekend, obviously Army had the cadets there. That was nice, but the games that had no one there, like the Navy BYU game was 35-0 at halftime, and it felt dead. I watch soccer, I watch basketball, I watch hockey, I watch even auto racing. You notice the crowd's not there, but you don't care that the crowd's not there because they have the screeching of the floors. They got the ice. You got soccer had the in crowd noise. Football feels dead when the game's a blowout and there's no energy from the sideline. So I'm thinking that might be the bigger deal than no fans in general.
Are they turning down the microphone every 5 seconds like they do in the NBA games?
Not that I noticed, but that was also college. They're probably not swearing as much.
Yeah.
With the NBA games, last night was the first time where I really started thinking oh my God, if this was normal, this game would be at the Garden and the Garden would be absolutely rocking. It was the first time I'd really thought of that as the playoffs have happened. I don't know about you guys, but it was the first time I was like, damn, this would be so cool if this was in Boston right now.
They would have
I think there'd be a lot more pressure on the referees to make a few different calls. That's for damn sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and we'll get to the Celtics later. Let's talk about the game tonight on the NFL side, the opening kickoff game, the Chiefs and the Texans. Obviously, the Chiefs are defending champions. Looks like they're going to be back and maybe even better than ever. Who knows? And as Brian said, this year, with teams that are bringing a lot of players back and teams that have experienced coaching staffs, they're going to have a leg up on everybody. So the Chiefs seem like they're probably the favorites going in right now. Do you agree?
Andy Reid is still Andy Reid, but unfortunately they did win something last year, so he has,
now he has a ring.
He has some flair to his uniform that he didn't have before going into the season, but he's still Andy Reid. Is it in Kansas City, do we know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's no fans, but they still raise a banner type of deal?
No, they have 25%. Kansas City.
Okay, so there'll be a banner ceremony and all that.
Yeah, they said that I don't think there would be, because they said that anything they do would be either remote or at a different location. So they might have some sort of like dropping of it, but there won't be a whole parade of champions type thing.
The commissioner won't be there. There won't be any towels with the bozo nose. Okay.
Oh, I mean, there still might. That has nothing to do with Corona or fans.
All right.
But I'm intrigued, right? So they went out and improved. You talk about originally they said you can only keep a certain number of players. Well, they went out and signed Mahomes to the biggest deal ever. They went and re-signed Travis Kelce, and they re-signed Chris Jones. They're three big offseason pieces. And you go add a dynamic running back in the first round of the NFL draft that unproven because he hasn't played, but he's supposed to be very good. Watching him at LSU, he can run, he can catch, he can block, he can do all. The Texans go out and lose their number one receiver, who's a top 5 receiver in the league. They don't add anything offensively. David Johnson is They don't add anything defensively. And Bill O'Brien's still probably the stupidest coach in the NFL.
Oh, come on.
Okay, that's true. Adam Gase is still head coach. I forgot about Adam Gase.
Don't the Jets have a coach? And
Adam Gase, yeah.
Yeah, I know he's pretty dumb.
He's in the running.
So obviously Deshaun Watson's good. He got his money. But who's he going to throw the football to? How are they going to stop? Last time we saw these two teams play, they were up, 24-0 before they blew that lead in the playoffs? So I'm not saying they're up 24-0, blow the lead again. I'm saying they might be up 7-0 after the first possession and then lose 38-7.
Is there any prop bets to see if Mahomes can play the whole game without blowing out his ACL? Or is that
I mean, probably.
Okay, good. I got a feeling like it's their year.
Interesting. It's a strange feeling to have.
Well, you get that big contract, and
he's not Carson Palmer, okay?
No.
That's still the strangest story. Carson Palmer signs 2 mega extensions in his life, and he tears his ACL both games after that. It's the strangest thing.
The check still clears, though, right?
Absolutely.
What are some of the other games we're circling? We were off the air before we jumped on. We were talking about that Buccaneers-Saints game. Obviously, all those Buccaneers games are going to be must-watch, especially this first one. You want to see Brady's first game not as a Patriot. So that's one to certainly circle.
So the big thing I have with that one is apparently New Orleans hasn't even gained clearance from the city to play the game yet. So obviously I do think they will end up, but there is still a small chance that the city says no, and then they're not allowed to play, and that throws – from week one, just like the Marlins did, throws everything into chaos, right, from the very start.
Do they have to go to Buffalo and play minor league baseball stadium? Is that what they're gonna do?
And just go to LSU Stadium. Apparently, they can play football out there.
The only team that might have an issue with that.
As far as I've heard, I haven't heard any other stadiums. I know even here in Massachusetts, they said that the Celtics, the Bruins, the Patriots, and the Red Sox could play back in March or April or whatever. They said that teams could play here if the leagues wanted to. So interesting that New Orleans.
Are you sure? Because I could have sworn that Boston said no for the rest of the year.
They said no fans, but they said you could play.
Oh, the games, yeah.
Wait, are the Patriots one of the teams that is no fans, or are they at 25%?
They're zero.
They're zero. Yeah.
Technically through October 1st, but come on.
Right. Any other you want to talk about?
The other one is the Cardinals and the 49ers, right? So the 49ers coming off that loss, and everyone gave Jimmy G a whole lot of flack last year because he was a running team and he's a system quarterback. He threw for 3,800 yards, and obviously once they got down towards the end zone, they just handed the ball off to whether it be Mostert or whoever else in the backfield. So I'm interested to see what they can do. And then Kyler Murray and Kingsbury in year 2. Kyler Murray's the dark horse favorite for the MVP this year. Very similar to the way Mahomes and Lamar won it in the past 2 years. So will he fall flat in his face in week 1, or will he come out and dominate and make Jimmy G actually prove to people you can throw the football. That's the other game.
Dan, I've got the rundown here. Just give me a team, and we want to see how you do because we can go back and edit this later. Okay, ready?
Wait, what do you mean?
I'll give you the matchups. Give me the winner. Three
Okay.
seconds. I think. Okay, ready? Houston versus Kansas City.
Kansas City.
Casey.
Seattle versus Atlanta.
Seattle.
Jets versus Buffalo.
I'm just going to go gut reaction. Sorry, go ahead.
Jets versus Buffalo.
Buffalo.
Chicago versus Detroit.
Chicago.
Green Bay, Minnesota.
Green Bay.
Give me the fighting Cousins in that one. I'll take you down.
Dolphins versus Pats.
Pats.
Philadelphia versus Washington.
Philly.
Vegas versus Carolina.
Oh, I like hearing Vegas. Fuck it, we'll go Vegas.
Nice. Indianapolis, Jacksonville.
Yeah, Indianapolis. Don't help me because
Browns, Ravens.
Ravens.
Chargers, Cincinnati.
Chargers.
Tampa, New Orleans.
Oh, jeez. The game's in New Orleans, right? Maybe in New Orleans.
Arizona at San Francisco.
I'll pick Tom. I'll pick Tampa.
Okay, Arizona, San Francisco.
San Francisco.
Dallas versus Los Angeles.
That's an interesting game. Is that the Sunday night game?
That'll be a really fun Sunday night game.
Where is it?
SoFi
at
the new
LA.
stadium.
Oh, the new stadium. I'll go LA.
SoFi Stadium in Inglewood.
Yeah. Oh, I gotta watch that.
Which is really funny.
What's that?
Is really funny is the main proponent of that stadium to get it going and get it built was Jerry Jones, so his team could go out there and play a preseason game.
Good question, Matt. So you heard Dan's picks. Is he 500 or what?
So the only ones I disagreed with him on.
I'm gonna actually go back and like write down who I picked because I don't even remember.
we can go down to Rhode Island, make the bet, or go up to New Hampshire, make the bet on Sunday.
Oh, New Hampshire. Or Pennsylvania now, Matt. I heard there's a new app.
There is, yeah. Well, I mean, you could always do FanDuel out in Pennsylvania. The only ones I disagreed with, I think Carolina over the Raiders. Raiders are too many new pieces. Vikings over Green Bay, and I had Falcons instead of Seahawks. Those are the only three games that I thought differently.
Well, we'll see how you guys match up. I'm curious to see how we do in the following week. I'm not going to give my predictions because that'd just be too much extra work for myself.
No, because then that way he can always be right.
Fire picks.
That's right.
All right, that's the NFL Week 1. We'll obviously see what happens, and we'll talk about it next week. But let's get to the NBA, specifically the Celtics. They lost a heartbreaker last night, Game 6, double overtime. The officiating was questionable to say the least. When we did the show last week, the Celtics were up 2-0 and then 2-0, and then they won Game 3 that night. Is that right?
Game 3.
I'm sorry, they lost Game
3. Second two.
Oh, that's right. The buzzer beater was Game 3. So obviously, the thing that changed this whole series is the buzzer beater at the end of Game 3, because if that misses, the Celtics are up 3-0, and this series was probably over in Game 4.
Right.
So that was just a crushing buzzer beater. But I still like the Celtics' chances in Game 7. Well, let's talk about Game 6, though. What do we make of it? The officiating was not good.
The NBA released their meaningless 2-minute report. Of course, after the fact. The first thing they said was that the Kemba drive wouldn't have been a foul, and the game was tied at that point. But the referees didn't want to go down to the wire like the Jimmy Butler game, if you remember that, where there was a tie score and Jimmy Butler got fouled, I think, with no time on the clock, and they ended up beating. Was it Milwaukee or was it the previous round? I can't even remember.
Milwaukee.
Was it Milwaukee? Yeah. So, but that's one of the games, like I said earlier, if they're in the Garden, they call a foul on that. And Kemba Walker it's at least one or two free throws. I mean, I don't know. He's had some good games, and then a game like last night, you're like, oh, was you bothering him again? None of the guys could cut. I mean, the floor was very slippery. And then you got, Nick Nurse thinking he's the sixth player on the team, trying to catch passes. So, I mean, they don't want to make a big deal of it, but I mean, that guy's kind of a clown anyway. Tatum tried to say, oh, well, whatever, we should know better. But Brown kind of ripped him after the game. And then, Marcus Smart was doing great Marcus Smart things during the game. But at the end of the game, I thought he was going to get thrown out and miss the next game. I'm glad that somebody bear hugged him and pulled him off the court.
I mean, it's one game is one thing, one series is another. But God damn it, why does Tony Brothers have to ever referee another Celtics game ever again? The Celtics are, I think it's 1-19, 2-18 now when he referees their games over the last 5 years. It's ungodly, unfathomable that he is still allowed to do Celtics games the way his officially aiding crew does. So obviously we can all go to the Kemba situation, right? We all thought it was a foul. Obviously we're biased, but there were a lot of the unbiased media that thought it was a foul as well, right? We go down other calls back and forth. Tice got screwed with 2 straight blocking fouls when the other guy kneed him below the waist twice, right? My biggest one that of the whole night that was an issue. It was, I think, the one with 5 seconds left or whatever, where Tice was finally fouled going up for a jump shot, and then Toronto challenged it and overturned it.
Right.
When they called it a shooting foul. I don't care that you overturned it. It was probably the right call. How do you call that the ball was in midair and uncontrolled when the whistle blew? You said it was a shooting foul, thus the Celtics were shooting the ball. No duh, the ball is in the air and uncontrolled because it's a shot. Thus, it's the Celtics' possession going forward. It's not in the middle of the court. Thus, they called a jump ball. The Toronto wins it, and they go down, and I think that's when they cut the lead, either tied it or cut the lead to 2.
Yeah.
Calls like that are bigger than missed foul calls with 2.2 seconds left because the Celtics keep possession there. They can go up by 6, and it's a whole different game. I just don't know how things like that happen, and then he's still allowed to referee Celtics games in the future. Also, how does the road team win all 3 games in so far?
They had that shooting space foul too, where it was basically they scored 6 points within 2 seconds. So,
and obviously, refereeing is one. You can't blame the officiating, except in basketball you can, because 9 times out of 10 they're the reason that the game is in its situation. Whether it be
much
a
like
BS foul,
football.
Yeah, but it's whether it be a BS technical foul in the first quarter, whether it be a non-shooting call that gets called as a foul in the third quarter. There are plays that go down in and one situation, especially in these lack of fan environments, that can change everything. Now, I'm not saying the Celtics should have done better. Jason Tatum taking 5 turnaround floaters in the last 5 minutes, not great. Guys not hitting open threes, not great. Kemba turning the ball over. Jalen turning the things like that. But it all stems back to a call here, a non-call there, and the inconsistencies, right? That play, the lob pass, what was it, with 2 seconds left or whatever? They call a foul there, and then they had to call one on when Jalen tried it in the first overtime. Neither of those were fouls, but they had to call both of them. As a Toronto fan, I would have been pissed.
I think what you're seeing too is you're seeing how big of a loss Gordon Hayward is now. If they had, I don't know, another guy who could play 30 minutes off the bench last night, maybe score 12 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, instead of having, Grant Williams get lucky, hit a few threes, or Wanamaker play almost 40 minutes. In a series like this, you're seeing how important Hayward is, and he would probably want to put them over the edge. Probably in the buzzer beater game, but definitely last night because they just were gassed last night. They didn't sub anybody after the third quarter. I don't think either team did, unless they had to. I think Gasol came out because he got fouled out or something. But
yeah, I think it was like the out of bounds situations. They made some changes in free throw shooting.
You put Gordon Hayward in that lineup. It gives Smart a rest. It gives any of those wings a rest and an extra inch on any of those jump shots they go in instead of clanking out.
And I think you're fine. I mean, obviously, I've always liked Marcus Smart, and I think we on the show have, but I think for the non-Boston fan is finally seeing that he's not just a flopping defensive player. He actually can shoot the ball. He can actually lead the team. And what's he, 26, 27 years old or whatever? He's next to Jalen, is probably the biggest leader on this team. And if they don't have Marcus Smart, this team's not in the position they're in right now.
Right.
Well, he was named first team All NBA defense for the second or third year.
I think
second year in a row, Dan.
Yeah, second in a row.
I mean, that's really impressive.
And I mean,
but I still think the Celtics are the better team, and I think they will win Game 7 tomorrow.
I think Brad will have them firing because you look at the 3 games they've won. They've all been at Toronto technically, and enough
of this bullshit about where the games are all being played in Orlando.
But it's just, I find it funny.
I don't care what logo they put on the court.
But they've come out firing in their 4 wins. Hell, game 5, 6, whatever. No, game 5. They torched them. They held them to 9 points in the first quarter. This team can play when they want, but they're just like every other Boston team. They have that switch that they can pick when they want to play and when they don't want to play. I don't know if that's just something in the water here, but
They've been hanging out with the Bruins a little too much. They got to stop hanging out with the Bruins, man.
maybe, but that's the thing I think that infuriates a lot of Boston fans is that the teams are better than 99% of the teams they play. It just depends if they want to play to that level. Sometimes they just half-ass it, and whatever happens, happens.
Quick question for both of you guys. Dan doesn't really care, but I'll ask your opinion anyway. What's more disappointing, how the Bruins ended up their season or if the Celtics lose to Toronto?
Dan?
Yeah, it's impossible for me to answer because obviously I'd be more disappointed with the Celtics.
So if you had told – hypothetically, if you told me the day after or let's put it this way. If you told me at the beginning of the postseason which team would be more disappointing if they lost in the second round, I would say the Bruins. However, you ask me now that the Celtics were up 2-0, should have been up 3-0, and kind of blew Game 6 last night, it's the Celtics because it's the same way the Bruins were last year. I was more disappointed that the Celtics lost last year than the Bruins. This year, the Bruins had to face Tampa, and it was a juggernaut. Right now, the Celtics are a better team than Toronto, and you look at Miami going forward, everything's lining up for them to at least get to the finals. That would be more disappointing, Mama.
Yeah, you can that argument.
For sure. Aren't you scared about Kelly Olynyk in the next round if they get that far?
I haven't watched any of the Heat. I'm just like baffled that they're in the Eastern Conference Finals. So when hopefully the Celtics are there, I'm gonna have to be introduced to this Miami Heat team.
And Jay Crowder, I mean, he's dangerous.
Big fan of Tyler Hero.
Jimmy Butler going off? Like, what's happening? I haven't watched a lick of the Heat.
He still can't shoot threes, but somehow he just drains them left and right.
Goran Dragic.
They're very much like the Celtics in the way that Spoelstra has them in that they play defense, they take good shots 90% of the time, and they fight. Which I think is important in the NBA right now. Sorry, Dan, what?
No, they're scrappy.
Yeah, so Dan, you think the Celtics are going to win in 7? Matt, what do you think?
I do.
They should, and if they don't, it's very disappointing, and I think you have to look at why. Obviously, it's more than Hayward. They should win, and they should win big. But
I think they'll beat the Heat too if they get that far. Who do they play in the Western Conference?
Honestly, I think the Lakers. Clippers haven't impressed me.
But the Clippers won last night, so they're up 3-1. So the Clippers are looking strong too. That's gonna be fun to watch. Clippers Lakers, and again, it sucks that we're playing in the bubble in Orlando. We're not playing at all 7 games would have been played at the Staples Center. That would have been awesome. So hopefully,
the same thing, right? It's the same court. Dan,
you
literally just said it's the same court. They changed the logo. You literally just said that.
But that would have been in Los Angeles. Lakers fans would have probably been at all of the Clipper home games. It would have been fascinating to watch. Yeah. We'll probably get it next year.
Hopefully.
Yeah. Do you think that this being in the bubble has helped the Celtics? I do, absolutely.
I think so. Yeah, I think like we've talked about on previous episodes, the Celtics are kind of made for this weird bubble situation. So if they lose our night, that's disappointing.
If they do win the whole thing, which I hope they do, which that'd be a big if. Can they use this as experience for next year, or is it you guys are in the bubble, so it really doesn't matter?
I mean, yeah.
Because what's
the ring will be the same either way.
The only difference is
Mickey will be on the ring though. Mickey and Minnie will be on the ring.
They'll be right on the inside there. Hell, they're saying Toronto has experience, and Kawhi Leonard carried them to an NBA title last year. Kyle Lowry didn't do anything. Siakam was like a superstar. He's nothing, but he got a ring and he got all this money because Kawhi Leonard carried him.
It's amazing. Every time the announcers, and we'll end on this note, every time the announcers say something like, or they literally just refer to the Raptors as the defending champions, I have to grab Google and look up, are they really? I can't. It boggles my mind that the Toronto Raptors won the NBA championship last year. Like that really happened. That should have been the sign of the apocalypse.
They are the longest reigning champion too.
That's right. Yeah, the longest reigning champion without winning the next championship. Although they still have a chance to.
Yeah, there's that other part of the sentence too that's important, but we're not talking about that.
All right, so hopefully we'll have Eastern Conference Finals with the Celtics in it to talk about next week. We'll have NFL Week 1 to break down, and that's about it. All right, guys, for Matt, Brian, I'm Dan. Spin the damn music. We'll talk to you next week.